Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Unfair Advantage podcast. Today, we are joined by a true expert in the talent acquisition and organizational evolution space. Our guest is the founder of DBI Consulting, a niche firm that helps pre-Series B companies scale by focusing on talent. With over 25 years in the industry, he's passionate about preventing founders from making common mistakes and helping them build strong teams. Based in Prairie Village, Kansas, and a father of three, he's deeply experienced in the talent space from hiring for small companies to Fortune 1000 companies. Join us as we explore his journey, insights on growing businesses, and the challenges and advantages in today's talent market. But before we dive in, let's not forget that today's podcast is sponsored by Screaming Cow Marketing Group, which is your home service marketing agency that helps home service businesses around the U.S. grow their leads through utterly unforgettable marketing experiences. So if you're a business looking for more of the right work to do, you can call the guys who move. Doug, welcome on.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anybody who's listening, I've known Doug for quite some time now. Anybody's followed my journey in my last business. I used to say unfortunately, but now I say fortunately. Fortunately, did not work out for me. Lots of lessons learned, and life's changed tremendously since that happened. But I met Doug through that. Had some talent things that I was potentially looking for. Did not get to that point, unfortunately for Doug, I guess I'd say in that case. But a wealth of knowledge and everything. There was even just a conversation he and I had for breakfast one day where some insights he gave me helped point and lead the direction of the business that I was going. So, Doug, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of talk a little bit about what you guys are doing at your company, and kind of who you're looking to talk with and all of that stuff.
Yeah, great. I appreciate it, Brad. And I can't
Yeah.
do a much better introduction than you already threw out there. So I appreciate all the kind words.
Well, it all came from you. It all came from you. I just put it in. I put it in AI and Chat GPT, which makes me look better. So I guess we can thank the gods of AI. So
I love it. Love it. Love it. So yeah, I mean, pushing 30 years in talent acquisition and I would say business holistically.
okay.
Worked with big telecom companies that may or may not be based in Kansas City, to big financial services firms, to big engineering firms, and then all the way down to solopreneurs, like my good friend Brad here. So, literally everything in between. And it's interesting how kind of the career and the focus and the services model has continued to evolve for me. Which is why I'm so excited to be here to share some of the journey and to get your insights on some of this too, Brad. But historically, it's been really kind of recruiting, right? Somebody has a need to fill, I can go find the talent and help them align the needs where they're going. That has evolved quickly, really over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, where 10 years ago, I really got into the startup community, particularly in Kansas City. I was blessed to earn an opportunity with an education technology startup. I was employee number 36, I think. And we scaled that very quickly, 2.5 years to 170 people or so, something like that, before we were acquired. But really started getting into, small companies and scaling companies and realizing quickly, it's not just about write a job description and find talent, but a lot of the why behind the who. And identifying what challenges is a founder or a small executive team facing that they think they need to solve with talent. And many times we get into those conversations and talk about not just, hey, we need XYZ VP of sales or account executive or project manager or software developer. We go through these discussions and it's like, oh, no, we thought we needed this talent, but where we are in the business, we need there. And that's really where that organizational evolution has really started to evolve. And then to dovetail off of that has then turned into a lot of application in the last, I would say, year on a lot of niche kind of career launch counseling, from seniors in high school to recent college graduates that I'm not really sure where to take my career. I don't know how to launch, and counseling kids. I'm 55. Everybody's a kid. Brad, you're a kid. That really starting to help with that career launch stuff. So it's really kind of a holistic view where I am now in my journey of helping companies scale with the right talent helping talent scale to identify where they really want to be and bringing that entire journey together. So that's a very obtuse way of saying what I do, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I was thinking through like some of our conversations from my last business and some of the things I'm going through now with my business. And it's like what I think to like summarize like what you do is like there are founders out there, I'm one of them, who think they need a certain role in their business, but it's not actually the role they need. And so a lot of it's, yes, finding talent is the, I guess I'd say, the result of what you do. Like finding the right talent is the result, but in between there, how you get from point A to point B is like you're helping these people figure out what is it that you need, because you might think you need a salesperson, but really, like for me, like we've been through a couple appointment setters and everything in like our organization, and then I've come to the realization that like we're just not in the right space and the right time for a appointment setter for my business. And I was trying to like fuel the growth faster and faster and faster. And it was like, rather than blowing the money on a appointments setter, maybe you should just either one, not hire anybody at all. That's always an option. Or
Mhm.
two, what other areas of your business, like, is sales growth a problem, or is there another problem in the organization that's indirectly affecting sales? For us, it was like project management, account management. Like I was getting so bogged down in all of that stuff that
Mhm.
that's really what was preventing me from going out and selling more. Not that I didn't have the leads coming through the funnel and all that stuff. Like that was a problem at one point. And so it was like going through, I had to fail 3 times in order to learn that lesson. But working with you, I probably wouldn't have had to fail once to do that. Now I hire like my talent internationally in the Philippines right now. So
Right.
even the appointment setters, like that's a little bit different of a conversation versus you're hiring, help people hire domestically here in the U.S.
Not
But
not necessarily. Not
oh no, okay,
necessarily, because we get
okay,
into that sometimes of particularly with small growing companies
okay,
where we do have limited resources that we're not just going to go out and spend $400,000 on talent this quarter,
yeah,
right? But it's identifying what's the best way to go about this. And you brought up a perfect example: lead generation, appointment setting. Do I hire somebody that has never done it before? Do I go hire somebody that is more expensive that has done it before, but I have to teach them my business? Is this
mm-hmm,
an offshore virtual role that I can fill? Is it something I can outsource to an agency to do this stuff? There are lots and lots of solutions,
yeah,
and as the world has continued to evolve, AI is a big piece of that now.
mm-hmm,
It's not just one solution, and there's nuance, right? And I get into these conversations, Brad, all the time, of particularly on the revenue generation side. We need an appointment setter, we business development person, whatever it is, and then we need an account executive. And I throw up the stop signs right away, particularly in a small company, to say, "Great, cool. Are you set up for what comes next? Let's go
yep,
find your Mick Jagger level rock star that is going to go generate you $500,000 worth of new business this year. Are you prepared to support that business?"
mm-hmm,
Because
yep,
revenue is great. Revenue solves a lot of problems.
yep,
But if you're not prepared to execute and take the operations of that new business on, who cares,
yeah,
right? And so that's where a lot of the conversations I get into is, I understand you want to generate more revenue opportunity, but
right,
when those start closing, are you prepared to manage that kind of
yeah.
stuff? And it is a ridiculously nuanced situation.
Yeah. And it's like, is this overhead going to force you to take on revenue that you wouldn't have otherwise taken on? Like
Right.
just about an hour before we hopped on this, like we made a choice that one of the benefits of my clients. So we work, as I said in the intro, with a lot of home service companies.
Mm-hmm.
But what's also happened in the background that I don't advertise is we have several agencies that we white label work out to. And so they bring on clients, they need a website built, they need this built, and it's my team who's doing some of the work on the back end. And what we came to realize, we have a couple different agencies that like we needed the revenue, so we like right size, custom fit a workflow for them and all that stuff. And what I've come to realize is that through that process, we've just over time the relationship has evolved. Nothing like no parties have done something wrong on either side that's like forced this decision, other than the fact that like we have to grow as a business. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I went and grabbed, these deals and everything. they got us to where I'm at, all that stuff. But they've evolved to the point where rather than us just being a dev team that was taking the work they were doing or needed us to do and just building it, now we're involved in project management, account management, and QA and all this stuff where we're doing the math. And it's like, yeah, they're bringing in, a couple grand a month for us, but we're spending a couple grand a month in resources that should ideally, like, this retainer should be double the cost it is, because now we're putting all these, I've put in a weekly call, I've done this, and it was like, holy shit, we don't even need this. Like, yes, the revenue's nice, we're going to take a hit if we lose them, and we don't, like, we offered like, hey, here's the business model we're going to shift to with you guys, we can make this work, but like, here's the changes. But it was because I needed that revenue so bad and so quickly. We brought them on and everything, and then it evolved into what it is. So that you don't always recognize the, I guess, domino effect of hiring the wrong talent or trying to push in the wrong talent. So,
well, and you're in an interesting space because you will always have to be focused on, is this the business we want?
Yep.
Right. Revenue's great. I can go close this deal tomorrow. But is that drain on my resources?
Right.
Is this client, are they truly set up for what we're going to deliver them? Are they going to be a pain in the backside, right? Like, you always have to be questioning, particularly at this stage where you are. It's like, revenue does solve a lot of problems. It also creates problems.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So, so you and I, as I mentioned, like, we've known each other for a while, and I don't even remember at the time like what role I was looking for whenever you and I met. But there's kind of this pre-Series B companies, and me being previously in the startup world, that's vague, because I could say, like, as a new founder, like, I'm pre-Series B, but technically it's like, am I not? Like, now what I know, it's like, okay, that's somebody who's raised a Series A. They're going into like their pre-Series B and everything. So I'm assuming that's really kind of where you're at now. Companies who are in their Series A.
It is, and that's why it's a little bit vague in that, because it's like, a Series A round could get a company to the place where they don't need somebody like me anymore. They can take everything internally.
Right.
You could do that at a seed round. I mean, but so trying to define that, series, it's not really fair, right? It's more about growth stage, that you are needing to evolve your organization. Maybe it's adding talent, maybe it's moving talent around, maybe it's shedding some talent. There's a few anecdotal rules to that, but it's really just that growth stage that, we there's some changes we need to make with talent. Probably don't need somebody like me full time yet. But how do we get to the point where you will need somebody like me full time? And you come up with these little phrases here and there. My job is to work myself out of a job. Like, my job is to get you to the size where you need somebody like me full time, and I can ride off into the sunset. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I always say, like, that is the best type of churn that I could get, is like somebody grows to size where they need to do their marketing in house. Like, great. Like, let's get you to that point, because that means my job's done. And there's somebody else that I could help do the same. But if we continue this relationship and you don't bring it in house, then, like, in a way, because we only have so much capacity, like, I'm robbing somebody else of that opportunity, kind of thing. So,
well, and we live in a world too where we can augment some things, right? You're not the world's expert at everything. If they bring somebody in house, they're not going to be the world's expert at everything, and we can consult on directions to go or augment with service execution depending on where they sit. So it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, like, the talent itself. So wide variety of companies. For us, like, we're so niche down. It's like home service companies. So roofing company, HVAC, whatever you're doing, 750K to 3.5 mil a year, blah, 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 blah. Like, I've niched down as tight as I want to. I could go down to saying I just work with roofing companies. We aren't there yet, and I don't know if we ever will be. But so within the pre-Series B, I'm sure there's certain companies or certain types of talent that you're really, really good at finding. What is that talent? And I guess also, like, how do you go about, if you can share a little bit of your secret sauce, how do you go about finding these people?
Yeah, great. The kind of three questions in there. So
Yeah,
one,
I do that a lot.
no, that's great. Love the niche focus. You know,
Yep.
niches make riches. I've heard that.
Yep.
Somebody gave me that little nugget, and I'm going to continue using it. So I love that you are zeroing down on that niche, and that's where my niche is a little bit bigger in growth stage, pre-Series B. I've spent a lot of time really focused on the education technology space.
Okay.
But I think the common theme, for about 90% of the clients that I work with are B2B software as a service companies. Okay.
Okay.
The niche I'm in, I know it well. I know the economics, the finances, the humans that usually do well in those environments. From a talent perspective, pretty much anything aside from software engineers. I'm 55. That world moves really fast. It's really technical. It's not my jam anymore. So really, aside from really highly technical software engineers, software developers, but then with a wraparound, you need a CTO, I can do that. CIO, no problem. But aside from that, again, I've been doing this for 30 years. There's not a whole lot of generalized titles and scopes that I haven't worked on and understand. You said secret sauce. I'm gonna dovetail on that really quickly. But
Yeah.
whether it's finance and accounting or marketing or sales, generalized business operations, I'm pretty comfortable with that entire space. But the reality is, if there is a secret sauce, it is that I have worked with a lot of different companies, a lot of different markets and industries, and I learn really fast. People have said you can take a few little disparate bits of information, regurgitate that to, you need this. This
Yep.
is the problem you're facing. And going back to what we opened with, Brad, from that, I recall very distinctly a meeting with a CTO with a company in Kansas City who thought he needed a new software engineer. And after
Yep.
10 minutes, said, no, you don't. You need a product manager.
Yep.
And the light bulbs went. I was like, we have a product problem. We don't have a development problem. We have a product road mapping planning problem. That's kind of what I can bring to the table a lot of times is, don't come to me with a job description. Don't come to me with an aforementioned assumption of I need X. You might, but let's talk about the business and the challenges and the vision that you have. And let me pull these little disparate data points together to identify where we need to go here. And what's interesting in the recruiting talent acquisition world, it's so nuanced that there has yet to be an opportunity I've worked on that we don't get into one or two interviews, that there is an aha moment of, but wait, we need this too. We forgot to talk about we need this skill set or this experience because we pull together what we need at that moment in that meeting. And then we talk to two or three people. It's like, oh, we need somebody who has actually implemented this platform, or we need somebody who's done that. Oh, we didn't talk about acquisitions yet, did we? Nope, we didn't. And so I think where I'm going with that is, it's a human process. Where we start is never where we end.
Yep.
And we learn things along the way. And we can never go into a search for talent with, here is the box, insert things into the box. It's too nuanced. It's too human for that. And so hopefully answered the three of your questions of the niche, where the talent sits in, and what I didn't answer, how do I go about it? Listen, there is no secret sauce to this. Every agency, every recruiter in the world says, I've got the best database. I've got the best network. No, you don't. It's called LinkedIn. Everybody is using the same, whether it's Indeed or Dice or LinkedIn or what. We all pay for the same platforms. Now, you might have 7,000 connections in LinkedIn that are first level, but guess what? We're all going in and we're all punching in marketing and brand and St. Louis and HubSpot, and it's spitting out a list. And ooh, I'm connected to 4 of those people. And so it's the same tools everybody else uses. It is the networking. It is the referrals. It is reaching out to people 2 levels above where we think we need to be, and who do you know, that kind of stuff. I think if there's a secret sauce, it's I get in and I understand the
Yeah.
business and the pain and what's keeping Brad awake at night, and how can we solve that through
Yeah.
people and process, and we get after it. So
Yeah. And for just thinking of my audience and all of that, so like I work with a lot of the home service companies. So to put it in
yeah,
perspective for those people who are listening, there's platforms out there that everybody in our industry uses, like Builder Trend, Job Tread,
yep,
Jobber,
yep,
like those software platforms that everybody uses.
yep.
Doug is basically going out and helping them find talent to help them. If we talk about a product manager, like you're helping them go out and find a product manager, so job or a job trend, whoever can
Well, and
improve
let's
their
just put
product
it very
roadmap.
specific to your world.
Yeah.
I've actually got a client in this space right
Yeah.
now,
Let's do it.
that we're looking for potentially a president for one of the business units, right? We're looking for a director of finance, financial planning and analysis, but that could go all the way down to I need a field technician. I need
Mm-hmm.
a solar panel person. I need a field project manager. I need a job estimator. I need a flat work person, right? Um,
Yep.
you know, I need somebody in customer service who really understands the residential plumbing world. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Those platforms are there, and that's great. Here's the nuance. Not nuance, that's the wrong word. Here's the serendipity of the moment. You need, we're gonna fill in arbitrary words here.
Yeah.
I need a job estimator who really understands residential plumbing, and I need them in Des Moines, Iowa. Cool. We have all the boards. It is finding that talent with that level of experience who's available and interested in making a move or open to an
Yep.
opportunity right now,
Yep.
because the person that is in this job now is going off on family leave for the next 12 weeks. I need somebody yesterday.
Yep.
And we have to hit that serendipity of that moment. And then we have to get into what's our salary budget? Are you prepared to pay what the market is demanding? Because you haven't filled this job
Mm-hmm.
in 5 years, right? And so it's all these little pieces that you have to pull together of right company, right salary budget, right culture, right person, right experience. All those things have to come together at the right
Yep.
time. And then we can start getting into hire fast, fire faster.
Yep.
What's your plan for onboarding? A lot of the companies in your ecosystem, we probably don't do this a lot.
Right.
And so, do we have our processes down? Do we know how to assess talent? What's our onboarding plan? All those things. That's why I say it's a human thing. Where I think we can go with this, Brad, a little bit is in this world of these home services companies, you have to differentiate yourself as an employer brand.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? What do you offer? Really focus on culture,
Yep.
leadership, accessibility, support, guidance. I'm going to open Pandora's box and I'll let you walk into it, Brad. But it is a whole new world of
Yeah.
employment generationally, post COVID. It's a different world out
Yeah.
there, particularly. And I love this ecosystem. I love my HVAC guy. Shout out, John, who comes to my house twice a year. Home service, comfort, heat,
Mm-hmm.
air conditioning, Kansas
Yeah.
City. Thank you. But when he comes to my house twice a year and asks, what is my 22-year-old son doing? Because he has daughters and they don't want to step into this business in a world where we know there's a lot of aging out in these markets. How are we building this? How are we attracting
Mm-hmm.
talent to it? How are we branding ourselves to that? What I love about this ecosystem is it ain't going away. AI is not going to replace the guy who's going to come refill your
Right.
refrigerant in your HVAC, right? So
Yep.
it's a really intriguing market ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, we were very intentional. Like we just went through the process of like actually drafting out like company core values and all that stuff. And like our core values are based off the word people. And it's because like we love using AI. We use all these tools, this and that, but it's like important for me with the clientele we work. Like, yes, we're going to use these things. We're going to use this to help make things go faster, cut costs, all those things. But like without people, like we wouldn't have what we had. We couldn't do what we did. This as an example, you filled out this virtual onboarding form we have for the podcast. And I did it. You and I hopped on a call a couple weeks ago. We're talking about it. And I'm like, Doug, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I haven't looked at it because I don't look at them because I have an executive admin who basically, like, it goes through, you fill out the form. We have AI that score is or whatever. And she looks at the application and she tells me, like, yes or no on these people. And for everybody listening, Doug was on that list. We didn't just invite him on because I know Doug, but it's like we've automated most of it, but at the end there's a person, and that person knows me, knows my business, knows the mission, the vision, like what we're going for. And we were able to use AI to expedite that process and filter out people who are going to waste our time, which there's plenty of those who fill out that form that you filled out. But it's like the people are always going to be there. It's just how can we use it? How can we use technology and AI to help elevate what we're doing so we can make people more people and do more of, like, when we are having interactions with each other, how are they the most high quality, intentional interactions that we have?
And that's interesting, to this day. I mean, we're now kind of into the 1.5 generation of using some of those screening tools, whether it be a one-way video interview or, hey, I found your profile, interested, but would you fill out these questions, right? Love that stuff. It brings a lot of efficiency to the process. However, there are people who won't do it. I get pushback weekly on, this is impersonal. You don't even want to take the time to talk to me. I'm not going to fill this out. And there's two ways to go on it. One, this is who we are. This is what we do. If that process isn't the right fit for you, cool, move on. But then the other way to look at it is, you may miss really, really good talent. And I, as the talent acquisition person, I will tell you that I have seen a profile that I know in my soul is a great potential fit for this organization. And I send them these things. They say, you know what? I'm really not interested if that's the way you want to go. I flipped it around and said, totally understand. I do see a lot of value in you here. Can we grab 15 minutes, talk through things a little bit, and then I'll have you do this stuff? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so again, it's the serendipity of the right person
I just had a conversation with a guy yesterday who owns like a mastermind for people who do like gutters and all that stuff. And he and I were talking about, like, how can we work with each other and all that stuff. And we were talking about the podcast, and he was about to start telling me about why he thinks he'd be a great fit. And I paused him. I'm like, hey, I'm going to listen. I want you to know this before you even move into this. I'm going to listen. Either way, the process is the process. Just so you know, let's have this conversation because I want to know now, because now you've intrigued me. We've had a great conversation. But if once we hop off this call, like, I'm going to send you a link to fill out this form, which some of the things you're going to tell me, you're going to have to redo again just because of this process. And as long as you're cool with that, like, let's move forward. And he's like, oh yeah, like, let's do it. Not a problem. He's like, I want to respect you and your processes, all that stuff. And then we wound up talking about it. And then in that case, like, we hopped off, and I'm like, pretty sure our system's going to, like, score him fine. But in case he fills it out and he doesn't score, like, let's go ahead and push him through. He wound up being fine. We already get him on the books and all that stuff. But it's one of those things that you're right. Like, you could miss good talents if you don't do it the right way. We are now doing it for, I was with hiring a lot of international talent. People were plugging our job rec, and I was like, send us an email to this email with the job title plus your favorite sport or whatever. And if they didn't do that, like, we weren't looking at the resume. Well, they were doing that, but then they were plugging in what we were looking for in a chat GPT, and we were realizing that we're getting all these AI responses. So the exact same process you did for this, we now have a video ask form. We're in the middle of hiring for a new developer right now. And we had 110 people go and put in their information to begin this process: name, email, phone number. Then the first one is a video ask form, but it requires them to do video or audio. It doesn't even allow a text input. I can turn that off. And of those 110, 10 filled out, like, actually did the form. 5 of them only completed the form, and 2 of them actually had, like, the answers that we were looking for on some, like, very technical things. And versus before, we were filtering through all these emails and everything. And now it's like
Yep.
we were able to get from point A to point B in about 3/4 of the time by using that process. Did I miss out on some good talent by having this video thing? But it's like, in my opinion, if you aren't willing to hop on
Absolutely.
video for an onboarding forum, how are we going to have like Zoom meetings where remote teams are hard to manage because you don't have the in-person
Right.
collaboration like you do with we're talking about home service companies. Like if their technicians work together, a lawn care company, like the company that comes and mows our lawn, like they usually have 2, maybe 3 guys coming out, and it's like those guys know each other. They've built a rapport. They work together all day. Doing that in a remote setting is different, and so we've had to put up some of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to your point, Brad, it's,
Yep.
this is our process. This is what we do. We're willing to take the risk of missing. That's okay. That's right. But I agree with you. And it creates an interesting challenge and opportunity. Give you an example. Posted a role, sales role. 24 hours later, we had 800 plus applicants to that role. Immediate lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
Need to do a better job at the screening criteria within LinkedIn to start scoring and prioritizing some of that, so somebody doesn't sit there for 6 hours and make their eyes bleed by going through 800 applications, right? And I think that the market always wins, and the market catches up to these things, and the larger players, the LinkedIn's, they're figuring it out. They're plugging AI into it. They're figuring out how to score these things. And I had a sidebar, really interesting conversation I could go through out there, and talking to a lot of candidates, talking to a lot of people who are in the job search. I can't get an interview. I've applied to 1,000 jobs and I can't get an interview. But one, if you've applied to 1,000 jobs and haven't gotten an interview, that's your resume. Like, come on, right? Let's be real here. But I kept hearing, I can't get past the algorithm. I can't get past the AI. I can't. So I was like, all right, stop. I went out, reached out to talent acquisition recruiting people at named companies and startups and said, is anybody using some sort of automated algorithmic AI driven tool to
it's
screen
the same
and
application
score
tracking system
and
they've been
clear
using
out
for
resumes?
years?
Not one. Not one. Exactly. So it's funny. So a very nice young lady from Meta actually replied to me, and I said, okay, I need 5 minutes because it's Meta, right? So I jumped on a quick call and I said, so what you're telling me is one of the small handfuls of companies that is leading the charge into applied artificial intelligence is not using it in any way, shape, or form in their talent acquisition. We are not. If they ain't doing it, nobody else is. But we do need to use the tools that are out there for us. And that is the danger on the candidate side of throw in the job description to ChatGPT, align my resume to fit that. Yeah, that's going to match you up with a whole bunch of keywords. Better be ready to back it up in a video or a phone interview. Catfishing is a thing.
You and I have talked about, I'll quickly just highlight this, talk about my wife going through her layoff process last year, and now works for the American Cancer Society, loves her job. And we wound up getting that job for her through a mutual connection and everything. But the lady that was like, here's where you go to apply, or here's you need to apply through, was like, make sure your resume like passes ATS. Like that was, she knew that the American Cancer Society, like their ATS system is on point. And so like we were, as you're talking through, plugging it through Chat GPT and everything, there's a software called jobscan.com that, because my wife's doing her MBA, UMKC gives her for free. And basically it was like, your ATS score is like 30% or whatever. Here's what you're missing. And then it was like, here's the hard skills you're missing. Here's the soft skills, whatever. And we figured out how to prompt into Chat GPT, like where to apply those. And then I was very explicit, only where it makes sense. Only where it makes sense, add this in there. And what's funny is she went months of like, we had a few interviews, this and that, didn't get any offers. And then as we get this offer for ACS, she had another offer from another company, and was like, two other companies were like at her toes, like, all right, let's move this along. And the only change we made was we actually sat down and began, because she was customizing ish, but applying to hundreds of jobs. And then we make that one tweak. We start using AI in the right way, because
Yep.
again, human input, it required our input in there. And then all of a sudden she starts getting all these things, and it passed through their ATS
Yep.
system at ACS, like in flying colors at that point. So it's a great tool to use. Mm-hmm.
Yep. But to your point, you have to put in the effort, right? And if you're just relying on the one size fits all, you're not doing any
Yep.
customization. You're not utilizing the tools that are out there to give yourself a fighting chance to it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get the results that you're getting. And it takes work. It takes, I saw this really cool brand marketing job at this company called Screaming Cow. I think I line up to it. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to throw it in. Then I need to go out on LinkedIn and I need to find who's affiliated with Screaming Cow. I'm going to send them a connection request. Yeah. Mr. Starnes, I'm really interested in this. This is what we're bringing to the table. You got to put in the effort. Nothing may come of it. That's okay.
And it's not.
But if you're not putting in that effort to stand out, guess what? It's not. And there's so much to it too. Of you might be the perfect person, and on that day, my dog died, and I am not in the mindset. Or I just found out that my mother-in-law is in the hospital for whatever reason, or these little things happen, and it is so serendipitous to right person, right time, right moment. Got to have the energy. Got to be saying the right things. And I will say we fail so much as recruiters. Here's a big advice to candidates out there. Do your best not to schedule interviews with recruiters at like 4:30 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. We're exhausted by that point. We've talked to 10 people. Get us in the morning when we're at our best, if you possibly can.
Yep. I actually don't take any sales calls or anything after 4:00 anymore, because I know that I'm exhausted. I'm not my best in terms of that call and everything. And so, like, if I have somebody, they're like, hey, like I really can only do between 4 and 5 or whatever, I'm just honestly like, hey, that's fine. Just know, like, at that point, I've been up grinding since 6 or 7. If I didn't get up any earlier than that to go hit the gym and do this, so like I'm exhausted at that point. So just bear with me. And like I've had a few that we've done that with, but like I don't even open up my calendar after 4. I'm like not happening here. So so what I want to kind of wrap this through with and everything, want to be cautious of our time. So you've worked with on both sides, a lot of business owners looking for talent, a lot of people looking for businesses to work for. And we've kind of had a few little tidbits of advice and everything, but like, if you were to say, if you're a employer looking for talent, if you ignore anything we talk about in this episode, but this one thing, here's the one thing, and I'll even have you add a little plus for the people who are looking for jobs, kind of same thing there. If you ignore anything we talked about, like this is the one thing that I recommend to help you get the best career or the best talent. On both. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
On the employer side, no. To start with the employer side, I think the one thing I would tell you is be very realistic of what talent you need, when you need it, and how much it costs. You do not get filet mignon talent on a hot dog budget. You're not that cool. You're just not, right? You can give up cash, but you better give them equity. You better give them some way.
Yep.
But you're just not that cool. You don't get $75,000 talent for $50,000. Not today. Never really, but not today. So one, know what you need, when you need it, and what it costs. Like really think through those things. On the employee, on the job searching side, when you're looking for it, it's a really human process, and you desperately need to put in the effort of self-awareness. What am I good at? Do not try and sell yourself into something you cannot do. Do not waste your time or somebody else's. No one size fits all resumes. hard stop. Do that little bit of customization, line yourself up, do that. That's your entry point. Your resume is nothing more than a billboard. That's all it is. You craft that billboard for your audience. Follow up,
Yeah,
reach
absolutely.
out,
And when you follow
make
up
the
and make
connections.
connections, make sure they're
You
like
can't leave those things
detailed
off the table.
connections, not, hey, I've applied for this job. Here's my resume. It's, hey, I applied for this job and I saw you guys are working on this as a company initiative. Here's how I would help with that. Or here's what something that shows like I can take the extra mile because I care. I want this job that bad. So
Right. And call out what you can on the wins. Like, hey, Mr. Starnes, I saw you're looking for this brand promotion role. I saw you just landed a huge new client. Congratulations on that.
Yep, absolutely.
Call out those
Well,
little
Doug,
things that you're
thanks
paying
again for
attention,
hopping on today.
humanize it.
As always, I
It
love
gives
the
you a leg up.
conversations you and I have. So this was great, as every other conversation we have. But for our listeners, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review so we can continue to produce more episodes like this. And please share our episode online on platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn so we can get Doug's business and what he's doing out for everybody to hear, and we can help more people find the right talent and more talent find the right careers. But until next time, this is your Unfair Advantage.
Thanks, John.